Hey, welcome to my channel, Josh Gordon Music, coming at you from a different angle. This is a Line 6 Pod Go video, and it's just some general tips on how to use a parametric EQ. All right, so I've queued up a preset here that I just created using the RevGen Purple amp, and I'm using a Gibson Les Paul. And as you can see, well, here, let's hit the view. So you'll see I have, from left to right, I have a wah. We have a Boss overdrive, it's the Stupor OD. We have a chorus, the amp, the cab. Obviously, there's the effects loop, which I'm not using. And then we have the dedicated EQ block. And at the end, there's delay, a spring reverb, and the volume pedal. So let's scroll to the EQ block. Okay, parametric EQ. I'm gonna play you the preset so you hear how it sounds. Okay, now it sounds pretty good, I think. I like the sound of it. But say there's a couple of frequencies that you're just not sure of, or you hear something that you kind of wish, oh, I wish I had less of this and that. There are other EQs, of course, in here you can use. But this one I find, and it's kind of new for me, I've kind of stuck to the Cali Cube and the 10 band graphic EQ, but I'm starting to use the parametric so that you can hone in more on certain frequencies. And that's what this is, at least that's what I believe this parametric EQ does. So let's start with the low frequency. So you'll see it's at 110 here, okay, 110 hertz. And then you have the low Q. So, and then for mid, you'll have mid Q, for the high, etc. You'll have all that. So let's just say the Q, okay? So the Q, from what I gather, now I'm not an expert on these studio terms and whatnot, but the Q seems to be like the curvature of or the scope of what you're changing. So the lower the Q, the more flatter it is, I guess, of the curve or the area that you're covering. But if you up the Q, basically what's happening is you see these V's in the rev. Basically, yeah, you're making the scope narrower and narrower and narrower, where it almost comes to like a straight line, and you're kind of notch filtering things out. So when I do my videos for these presets, I definitely use Logic, and I use when I quote unquote master them. I'm not a mastering engineer, well, let's just call it mastering. When I master them, I definitely use EQ first, to cut some frequencies here and there, or like some, you know, something that doesn't sound great. And definitely I use it for the narration vocal part. So I'm always changing the Q. So I find I tend to use, I tend to use about 1.5 or so, but let's really narrow it, and let's call it 2.5 here. So, okay, so far we haven't really done much but change the area around the 110 hertz. That we're narrowing it in more on the 110 hertz. But now this is where the gain knob comes in. If we want to raise it, if we want more of it, or if we want less of it. And that's basically how simple this works. So let's keep it at 110. And you know what? I'm going to put this to 3. So let's play it again. We haven't really touched anything for the EQ. Okay, and now let's drop it a lot drastically here. Now I'm playing this through Studio Monitor, so hopefully you'll hear the change. But let's really drop it all the way to the -12. Now it's definitely taking a lot of bass out, that's for sure. All right, and if we wanted to, let's move this to 2. So it's definitely taking a lot of the bass out, which I don't want to do. So you know what I would do, because I liked how it sounded. I do want to roll off a little bit of the low end, so I'm going to put it to 100. And let's tap that back so you can default. You tap these buttons, it'll default to the 0. So let's roll it down to 1.5. Okay, I like that. Let's move to the mids. Okay, mid, same thing. You know what? I'm gonna just, for this demo, I'm gonna just put it at 2. So if you're using, say you're using Logic and you're using a parametric type of EQ, and you have a graph, you know, like it's a visual of it, you'll see that when you're adjusting this, you'll see how the curve, which is like if you have it 0, like you might have a semicircle curve like that, but you know, like if I put it to 3, then you might have it like this, right? So it's really, again, like if this was the, like say this was the scope of the 2 kilohertz area, the higher you put the Q, the more narrow of scope and the more honing in you're doing on it. Okay, so let's put it to 2.5. And you know, for the mid, let's say I want a little more of the lower mid. So I'm gonna kick this down. I don't want it down that much. Let's put it around 550, okay? And let's put it to this to 3. And then we have to go over to the next page to I want to up the mid. So I want to up it to 2.5. Let's hear it. Now it gives it, you know, if you want a little more honk and punch, that's great. So why don't we do the opposite? Let's take the gain and let's drop it, you know, trying to be drastic here. Let's drop it to -6. Now that I don't know if you can hear it well enough on this phone speakers, but I hear a definite difference. Let's do it even more. Like you want to take out the mid. Now that's making it more nasally thin to me. So you know, I just tapped it and put it back to 0 so you could hear the difference. So I want to up it. So 2 dB. So I kind of like that, you know, and that might even be a little much for me. Let's just put it to 1. A little subtle change. Okay, I like that. So not last, I mean, you hear there's still low cut, you got high cut, okay, and then you can up the overall levels of what you're changing here. I'm not going to touch that. You know what? Let's do a high. Yeah, and well, you know, you can guitar. You don't need these high frequencies. So I'm gonna put it down. Let's say I want to just cut the whole EQ scope from like the very lowest to the very highest. I'm just basically what I'm doing is I'm taking, so let's call this like a line here. You're basically just taking a curved line and just moving it over and over so that anything on this side of the line and now has been cut. And now here's where your frequencies live. Now it would be nice to see if we had like a graphic representation on here, but we don't. And you can use this to kind of like get, you know, just get rid of a few more little subtle unwanted frequencies that you might not be hearing right now, but you might hear them in your studio recording and whatnot. We will get back to the high, folks. I'm sorry I got on a tangent here. And then the low, same thing. You can cut some of this low. Like the guitar is not going to go down to 35 hertz. So let's, you know what? Let's go to 60. All So back now to the high frequency. So I don't think it's too bad as is, but let's just change it for the sake of, let's really try and narrow in on something. So let's put this Q to 6. And do I want higher or lower? Let's go to, let's say 5 kilohertz, and let's say we want to brighten this. So you hear, I had it up to 6, and then when I tapped it to 0, I could hear a change in the brightness. So let's even fine tune it more. Let's go to 4.8. And I'm going to lower this so it covers a little more of the area around that 4.8 kilohertz. So I want it to be maybe a little brighter. So I'm gonna lower the Q, let's say to 1.5, and then I'm gonna up the gain of it to 2, and then I'll hit it back to 0 to hear a difference. So I definitely, on my end, there was a little subtle brightness difference. I'll pop this. See, you can play with this for quite a while here. I'll put us back to 5, and I'll put this up to 2. All right, well, I think that's going to get you covered and started, but hopefully you could hear the differences on this video, and I might do a more in-depth video on this one, with some more proper sound, like going through Logic and whatnot. But I heard differences, and this is, like I said, this is great for when you want to, narrow in on things more, because when you're using like a Cal EQ or the 10-band graphic, I mean, the hertz or kilohertz frequencies, those are set for you. So you can't change those. Like you can either, I'm gonna save this actually, and I'll show you. Like, let's see, we want to use the different, like the 10-band, right? Like these are set in stone, like this 31.25, the 62, the 125. Like these can still do a good job, and you can definitely shape your tone with it. But if you really wanna hone in and be more specific, parametric, and I'm really becoming a fan of the parametric EQ, and I'm sure many of you out there will be like, yeah, Josh, no shit, we've been using it for a while. But there are some out there who might not know or be familiar with this, or just keep the EQ block off. And this could be a great tool too when you're at gigs. If you're at a gig, I would recommend first using the global EQ, which you can find right here by hitting these 2 page buttons, and then you can, because that might help you tailor it more to the venue. But you can also use this too to, like I said, you hone in on a frequency, dial it in, dial it out, dial it up, dial it down, whatever. Okay. So anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope this helps some of you out there, and I appreciate each and every one of you who come to the channel to visit and return. And if you like the videos, fantastic. If you don't like it, no problem. That you're entitled to your opinion. And I would truly appreciate those who choose to subscribe to the channel. So hit that subscription button and ring that notification bell. Like, click on that so that you'll get notified when another video comes out. Thanks, and take care.